What is up, guys? Coop here, and today we're going to be talking about the Fallout 76 beta that has been made by Bethesda Studios, and some of my first impressions when playing the game. Overall, I've been playing the beta a lot this past week, and I've been testing out a lot of different things, so I figured I would give you guys some of my first impressions and diving into some of the features and some of the things I found that were pretty interesting while playing the game. Obviously, this is the beta, so keep in mind all things are subject to change. Fact is, a lot of things might potentially change, but without further ado, let's jump into the vault and see what happens. Alright, so you basically start off in the vault, kind of hungover from the previous night of partying for Reclamation Day. Reclamation Day is apparently the day where they release all the residents of the vault and send them off into the wild to reclaim the wasteland that is now what was once their home. So the first thing that you do is your character customization, which this looks actually very similar to people who played Fallout 4, where it's very elaborate and there's lots of different options and lots of different things. For people who are used to Fallout 3, this might be a huge step, but I overall like this one a little bit more than the previous because instead of having just presets, you're actually able to customize your character and kind of make them very unique compared to everybody else that you'll see in the wasteland. One of the biggest things that you'll notice too is that obviously there's lots of variation and lots of different things like sculpting you can do. So I was kind of surprised that they allowed that in the multiplayer. I expected it to just be like you can kind of like change the eye color and everything, maybe add blemishes and whatnot, but they actually allow you to sculpt up everything and like drag and drop and move up cheekbones. So with that, it seemed really awesome that from a multiplayer perspective they are able to save all this data of having all these different sort of styles and things that you could do. One of the things also that I noticed is that they have a lot of hairstyles. I dare say I think there's more than there was in Fallout 4. Don't quote me on that, but I did notice when I was looking through a lot of the hairstyles is that they had, well, a vast majority of the ones that I remember, and then on top of it a little bit more that I didn't remember. It made it really nice. You can obviously change your hair color, everything from there forward, but looking forward at that, it was really awesome to see this character customization, as it really allowed you to make, well, a in-depth character and kind of design it how you wanted with the freedom, instead of having it where, yeah, there's multiple people, but not having everybody look the same. Also, when you start off the game, it gives you a random preset, instead of having it just be like a average Joe that everybody looks the same and just presses it and gets out with the first face default on. It actually randomizes it a little bit, so not everybody looks the same when they walk out, even the people who are lazy and didn't do any sort of setup with their characters. Next, we're going to talk about the tutorial area and kind of the beginning steps. So as soon as you pretty much walk out the vault, you find your Pip-Boy. You basically go up and you just grab it. Now, one of the things that you do got to keep in mind is when you are starting off, you really can't collect or pick up anything within the vault. Pretty much everything out there is pretty much just for display. You really can't interact with much besides like maybe the TVs and radio stations. However, one of the things you can do is anything that is put on display in the tutorial stuff is basically up for grabs. So this is me kind of messing around with the Pip-Boy. It's very natural. It reminds me a lot of Fallout 4's Pip-Boy. They basically are using a lot of the same engine and same assets. I was looking at the map. The map is very, very large. As a person who's actually now played it for what seems like now 8 hours, I would assume, I've basically managed to only find out the corner of the world. There's actually so much more to this game and how much that there is to explore. So that was definitely something that was eye-opening when I saw that. As for the actual vault, though, you pretty much just follow the signs. There's really not much for you to actually discover, which is kind of sad. You know, I usually like having the Fallout story to where you can kind of explore and get to know the vault and everything. But the only thing that you can really discover is maybe looking at that few of the terminals to understand the story a little bit. And this is like me interacting with one of the NPCs. I think it was a Mr. Handy. But basically, I ended up just kind of moving on. I didn't really want to bother with trying to look at things over and over and over again. Now, over here you see like one of the first displays where basically they just give you some meds, they give you some basic raidaways and stim packs, so that way you don't walk into the world and just get completely obliterated and not have any survival stuff. Gives you your Vault jumpsuit, which basically doesn't really do anything. It's just kind of like a cosmetic thing, so you're not walking around naked. And then of course the almighty party hat, which I had to equip as soon as I got it. So as you guys can see there, just equip that bad boy, and there we are. We're pretty much getting ourselves ready for the wasteland. And I obviously put myself in our hotkeys, so hotkeys are still a thing to where you can just go ahead and pick up stuff. That's your camp. Basically, I want to make a whole guide. I don't want to like really describe too much about it in this video, but basically that allows you to be able to claim and build up your bases within the world. This is going to be perk cards. We'll talk about them next. Perk cards basically are your level up rewards. I just kind of skipped that over for right now for the purposes of this video. And then pretty much right then and there, you're off into the vault. You have a rough story. You have all of your gear that you kind of need, and you're just told to, hey, just go into the wasteland and explore. So let's see what the wasteland has to offer. So the perk card system, this is basically how you level up. You choose one of your specials, which basically strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, and agility and luck. You click it and it increases your point in that, and then you have your cards, which as in the top left corner you can see that it has a little 1 there. Basically every time you pick one of your specials, you get to choose a card for that special. So when you increase it, it allows you to pick a card. And the thing with these cards is that obviously they have a cost to them. So if I choose, say, the perception one here, and I increased it, I would then have, you know, an increase of 1 to that. So then I'd be able to have up to 2 cards in there that have a cost of 1, or 1 2 cost card. Basically the cost of cards each have their own separate things. So this one I'm looking at, this one that increases the healing, I decided that I want to get that. So there we go, and it increases now that skill by 1. So from there I was able to select it, and then I was able to actually put it on. I don't think I actually put it on. I actually had to go back and re-click that because I thought I had it equipped, but apparently I did not. And I was trying to figure out what way exactly to be able to look at the perk cards. But apparently you just have to press T, and then from there you're able to just click it on. So as you can see there, I now have my card equipped, and I am able to jump into the wasteland. This is me a little bit higher level up. This is when I got my first card pack. So card packs are, well, perk card packs are basically stuff you get as you level up and as you complete some things. So what they do is they give you a bunch of different perk cards. Some of them are a little bit higher level than what you have, but what they do is they basically just give you some additional perk cards to pick from. So this allows you to discover a lot more different perks rather than just the casual slow leveling ways. You're actually able to find some different other perk cards. Now, one of the things that that the tutorial really doesn't teach you also is when you actually pick multiples of the same card, you're able to stack them together to increase that star rating. I don't know if you guys saw, but there's like a star rating with those 1 cards that were up there. So this is me looking at the scavenging ones, which basically I try to stack them like multiple times, and what they do is you can combine the 2 together and make it to where they have a higher star rating. So basically as time goes on you can stack them together, but it obviously once you stack the cards on top of each other they cost more. So when I had 2 of this card I was able to get to a star rating of 2, but it did cost me 2 points. So keep in mind when you increase your points you're able to kind of flip-flop your way and try to figure out what sort of build you want to go with. So as you can see here, obviously 2 cards, we can rank it up to the 2nd level, and then we are able to equip that. So I go ahead and I pretty much attach that on there, and then I was looking at some of the other ones, and these are locked. We were not able to use these at all, but as time goes on we'll obviously be able to get those perk cards. And as you can see, you don't have to level up to use those perk cards, you can actually just use it there. Now once you get to your 5th level you are actually able to attack and kill other players in the world. So the thing with killing other players is that when you die you drop all of your scrap, so other players are able to pick up your scrap that you have, which is very needed especially when doing a lot of your stuff. So that was one of the things that you definitely need to be on the lookout when doing your sort of things out there. So keep in mind that you don't have to worry about other players killing you until you get to level 5, making the experience a little bit better in the beginning. So this is just some gameplay of me and my friends going into a super mutant mound here. Basically it's just like an abandoned factory. So I'm over here and I'm just trying to like pick up some different items, trying to do some looting, and I think I end up actually getting attacked right about now. Yeah, so I actually got attacked by the super mutant. He caught me completely off guard. I was not at all ready, and he just walks up and just hits me twice, snuck up on me completely. And this is actually where you guys get to experience what happens when you die. So when you die, you are critically injured for a tiny amount of time. You could try to call for help for somebody to give you a stim pack and stab you back up into the fight. However, if you are not able to do that, you do end up dying and dropping all of your junk. Junk items are used to make all the different weapons and crafting materials and things out there. However, you do get to keep all your weapons, ammo, and your armor whenever you die. So you don't really lose too much when you die. It's just if you're doing a lot of scavenging, you do lose all those precious items that you could be using for crafting materials or building better and newer guns with your recipes that you pick up. Now, one of the biggest things is when you're exploring the world, you might be saying, well, why would I want to explore the world? Wouldn't I just want to focus just on the quests? That's not completely true. You do actually get a decent amount of XP while killing enemies out in the wild, and then on top of it, there are hidden recipes that are just kind of scattered around the area. So it's not a bad idea to go about and shoot some people down and get a little bit of XP and see what the area has to offer. My friend, when we were going through the Mothman Museum, he was able to find a really cool Mothman shroud that he was able to put as his helmet, and that was really awesome as it was a world drop. World drops are basically dropped in the world, and there are only a certain amount of players can get them. They do respawn over time. Basically, what ends up happening is I could be in a group, and then there will be a sort of helmet that's dropped on the ground. Only one player can pick it up, and then as soon as it's picked up, you have to wait for it to respawn. This doesn't happen all the time, but this does happen some of the time. And this is very helpful because it allows you to be able to, you know, have these cool world drops that people might actually go and scavenge for or go to the same place over and over again in hopes of picking it up. So that's one of the reasons that you would really go out there and explore. There's a lot of other different reasons. There's different holotapes you can do to get yourself some different quests. Some things actually require you to go into random delves and sort of factories and things to find these holotapes that could start potential other quests in the future. I know I walked into another place and I started off a quest called the Mother Lode, and I did a bunch of series of different things and like picking up, going to different terminals, taking a test, going and getting the answers to the test, and then picking up a card, and then using that card to go into a lab to bring up a mole machine, which after killing a bunch of enemies, I was able to get myself a really cool weapon. My one friend actually managed to get a Gatling laser gun, so that was really cool for him to get that. But as you guys can see here, this is basically what your kind of everyday life is going to be. Now the gunplay does feel really smooth. As you can see here from me just shooting, I was able to shoot off that guy's head. The gunplay does feel really good. I never really felt like anybody was too bullet spongy. There were some occasions where things felt like they were really bullet spongy. There's on occasions where sometimes I shot a guy and I'm like, I definitely shot him, but he took no damage. So that might be a little bit of thing with the beta. That might just be things with armor. I'm not quite sure. However, one of the things I did like is the gunplay felt very smooth and going forward. It felt similar to Fallout 4, but there are some bullet spongy enemies, I'm not going to lie, but it definitely felt really good. As you guys can see here, I like scoping. Scoping felt really good. But one of the things that I did notice is that a lot of the guns that you get in the beginning quickly become very useless and they don't really do much damage. So one of the things you really have to focus on is constantly trying to make yourself get better weapons. You can't just choose the same gun over and over again, because eventually it will get tiresome and it will kind of deplete. So it's important that you do these quests because the quests give you recipes and a lot of different rewards. Now, the recipes are probably one of the most important things I think in the game, because you don't just really get them from leveling. You have to actually go out of your way to explore the world and pick up these different recipes. A lot of quests reward them as well. So I know as soon as I got my favorite gun, the hunting rifle, as soon as I got that, I was super happy, and I made a bunch of bullets, and I had a lot of fun with that. So it's just one of those things where basically your everyday life is just going to be going through these different places, scavenging for materials to help make better weapons and guns, completing quests to get the recipes to make better stuff, and then just continuing on to the next area, and the next area, and the next area after that. There's also a main quest with trying to follow the Overseer and seeing where she went and discovering some of her hidden journals along the way. So there's a little bit of a story going on there, and it does help you slowly transition through the game and figuring out different things and having a really helpful tutorial with kind of discovering all the different things out there and learning how to play the game very smoothly. So in conclusion, what did I think about my initial starting off in the beta? Well, in the beta, I definitely felt like the beginning was a little bit weird and lonely. It definitely felt a little out of place. I definitely was not really enjoying it, and it did take me a long time to eventually get a gun. However, one of the things I definitely enjoyed was it definitely felt as time went on, I became more and more engrossed in the world. I just started seeing NPCs around the area, and I also started seeing a bunch of different quests pop up along the way, which definitely helped out a lot. I was really starting to get worried that everything was just going to be told by holotapes and robots, but as time went on, I eventually did start to discover different NPCs, such as there's this guy named Graham. He's like a super mutant who's like a wandering sort of vendor that walks around the different areas, and he runs around with his hunting rifle shooting down enemies. So it was really cool to see that. I saw different vertebrates running around and about. And you guys got to keep in mind, I only explored one corner of the world. I didn't manage to get too far. I did try to get into the middle area towards the end of the beta. I just started running around and trying to discover as many places as possible. But as time went on, I definitely wasn't able to get into the higher level areas. But the thing I did like was there was a variety of different enemy types. It definitely felt like this was a Fallout game. It never once felt like a weird, misplaced version of a Fallout game. While there isn't much story in the beginning, it definitely winds up towards the second half of the game. I definitely say once you get through all the tutorials and you start to discover all the different factions and you start to kind of get into the process of how the game works, it definitely makes it an enjoyable experience. However, one of the things I do gotta say though is if you're planning to play this game solo, it might be a little rough. This will probably not be your most favorite Fallout game out there. While the game does allow a lot of player interaction and things that you can do with other players, it definitely feels like if you were to play this solo that you would really begin to hate life. I was able to play solo in the beginning just to get the initial quests and get the things down, but I did start to get that loneliness factor. Luckily, a lot of my friends had the game, and we all managed to party up, and I managed to do a lot of really cool things with them. From my initial beginning parts of the game, I don't really have many stories to tell you. But once I joined my group, I could tell you so many cool things, and I speak with excitement when I'm able to do those things. But when I did solo stuff, I really felt like I was just going through the process very slowly. So that's one of the things you got to keep in mind is when you are playing this game, this isn't like your typical Fallout. You do have to kind of learn how to fully play the game, and then once you kind of learn how to play the game, I highly suggest trying to get involved with getting to know other players and trying to build other things around you, as it will help you develop and try to play the game how it's initially anticipated. Also, some of the quests became increasingly hard, and I don't see how you could actually pass them without being in a group, to be honest. So group play I find is a very important thing, especially for example charisma. Almost all the skills are helpful when you're in groups. They do have the wonderful thing called Lone Wanderer, so if you do decide to play the game solo, I do suggest going into Charisma and getting the Lone Wanderer perk, as it will allow you to be able to increase your overall power scale while you adventure alone. So that's definitely something to keep in account when going forward. As for the actual perk card system, I think it's a pretty good system. I do like how every character is kind of like their own unique character with traits that they're really good with. And I also like the fact that like if you don't like what's going on, you can actually change it about. So makes it for different scenarios where it's like, okay, well while I'm in a group, I put all my XP stuff on, I put all my luck stuff on, so where I'm scavenging and everything's going really well. Compared to where I'm in a dungeon, I might put a little bit more into agility and focus on all of my skills being where I get bonuses to damage while I'm in a group. And then when I'm solo, I can have Lone Wanderer and endurance stuff and my stim pack healing stuff to be into account. So it gives you all these different combos and different cards so you can switch in and out of different situations, and leveling up feels awesome because you're able to actually change how your character works and functions. Now, this also gives a little bit of replayability because you're able to kind of redo your character over and over and over again to figure out exactly what type of character you want to be. And it also, you can have it to where like one character is really good in agility and then one character is really good at being lucky. So one guy can be your character that you use to scavenge a bunch of your stuff, and then your agility character is your gunner. There's a lot of different scenarios that you can do there. So if I had to give my initial impressions of Fallout 76 so far, I would definitely say I'm pretty impressed. I felt like it did a lot better than it was supposed to. The beta definitely seemed a lot more stable than what I expected. I expected it to have a lot more bugs, but it actually felt like a fully polished Fallout game compared to most, especially with this being now the third iteration. So if I actually had to give it a rating, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Now keep in mind this is based off of the beta. Things are subject to change. I might discover some more things I don't like along the way, or I might just like it even more. So I mean, time will tell, but I definitely enjoyed this. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.